WandaVision, the first Marvel show Disney Plus has developed after the epic conclusion of the Infinity Saga and the start of a new age for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When I heard in 2019 that a show about Wanda and Vision was going to be made and that it was going to be a sitcom of all things, I was extremely confused but intrigued. I really couldn't wait to see what Marvel and Disney were going to do with this kind of concept and characters. This was Disney's first chance to show audiences what their new vision, yes I'm here all week, post-Endgame was going to be about, and from how many shows Disney is set on releasing, it seems there's an emphasis on Marvel bridging their feature films with these mini-series, as well as providing substantial content for audiences in these periods between the films. Disney released both their 50s and 60s episodes together, a smart decision as, to be honest, nothing substantial of note particularly happens within these first two episodes, but also stops any possibility of alienating viewers, since waiting 2 whole weeks to watch 2 black and white sitcom episodes that are specifically based upon the shows of that era could feel jarring to modern audiences. Whilst I stand by my previous statement that these 2 episodes don't particularly add anything substantial to the story, they do what any good introduction should do. They perfectly encapsulate the tone and humour the show is trying to achieve. It's light, it's humorous, and it speaks volumes to how dedicated the show is to try and be faithful to its inspiration, source material, and as well as its own origin story to tell. The humour in these opening 3 episodes is so well adapted and executed. It feels so refreshing to see this in something from Marvel. Sure, they do comedy well in their films, but this is different. This stylized comedy of the ages is not only a tone nostalgia trip, but a refreshing adaptation of a pastime format that we may never see again. And it feels amazing to have a show that is playing with these pastime ideas to tell its story. Obviously, a lot of dedication and effort went into developing the tone and feel of these sitcom episodes, with the episodes themselves incorporating methods used by the creators of the time for their special effects and multi-camera techniques. This all just helps capture the zeitgeist and makes it more realistic and authentic, rather than feeling like a parody or satire. Another nice touch the episodes incorporate is using modern camera techniques and shot compositions to emphasize when something is wrong in Westview, contrasting harshly with the era's style of filming, and introduces this air of reality forcing its way through to Wanda and Vision, with Wanda constantly changing everything anytime something goes wrong. The second episode is actually one of my favourites. It plays the situational comedy of its scenario amazingly. Paul Bettany steals the show for me. His comedic delivery when he's malfunctioning is just hilarious. His character is so much better utilised in this show and gives Vision that much needed substance that he's lacked in the films, besides a couple of really great scenes that he had in those films. The same for Wanda too. Their romance and characters always felt slightly underutilized in the films, despite being 2 of the most powerful members on the Avengers roster. I also really enjoyed the episode 4 opening. I actually forgot about the reverse Uno snap of everyone coming back, and seeing the aftermath of people returning was great to see. We get to see the tragedy of Monica's grief coming back from being dusted that will act as the catalyst for her to try and save Wanda, and where and how Monica fits into this new world order. We also get our first look at Sword, which has been teased throughout the show and will act as the new shield in space, as teased from Far From Home. We also meet generic corporate baddie Tyler Hayward, who doesn't really add much, I'll be honest, except for this one really great line he gets in episode 5.
All you people who left still have the luxury of optimism. You have no idea what it was like, what it took to keep the lights on.
Which he then ruins by being a dick in the next scene.
Maybe it's a good thing you weren't here when your mother died, because clearly you don't have the stomach for this job.
Kat Dennings and Randall Park reprised their roles in the MCU, 2 very great castings since their characters always felt very comical in their respective franchises anyway, especially Jimmy Woo. Man, I love this guy. Can we get a Jimmy spin-off series, Marvel? This newly formed gang are working on the outside to work out what's going on inside the Hex, which was fine. I don't really have anything more to say about it. It was nice to get some answers after 3 weeks, but it wasn't the most interesting subplot. The 80s episode signals the moment where Wanda starts disregarding her desire to hide and the stakes start ramping up. Unfortunately, this was the point for me where the episodes began to decline. The biggest point of note from episode 5 to 8 is this dick tease of a cameo from Evan Peters being cast as Pietro. Now don't get me wrong, these episodes still have really good comedy and the serious moments with Wanda and Vision really hit home, and I just had the biggest grin on my face when I saw Evan Peters. But the main plot of returning to reality takes precedent and severely detracts from the comedy. I will admit, Disney really know how to keep a secret. Also, I feel I have to mention this is the second time Marvel has teased us with this multiverse idea, and while I knew this couldn't be Fox's version of Quicksilver, it opened the door for the worlds to overlap, only for it to be a fake out again, which annoyed me.
You're Ralph Boner?
Boner.
Seriously, how much did this gag cost you, Disney? But then they have a film called Multiverse of Madness coming out in a couple years, so what's going on here? Large parts of episodes 5, 6 and 7 just felt like filler. There's just not much beyond something feeling constantly off and the gang trying to sneak back into the Hex and looking into the generic corrupt CEO's evil corporate plan. It feels as if everything in these episodes could have happened in one 60-minute episode or less than that. I'll admit my favourite sitcom episode in terms of how they used its humour when it was trying to be funny was episode 6, the all-new Halloween Spooktacular. This Malcolm in the Middle Full House combo was very entertaining. Then we get episode 7. Honestly, the weakest episode for me, and yes, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I don't like The Office or this style of sitcom. And yes, I know, but before you crucify me, I will explain my views on the show in another video. Short answer, I just find this mockumentary style of sitcom very tacky. Not to say that The Office isn't funny. There are plenty of good jokes in that show, like Asian Jim and hey look, it's Jimmy. Out of all the formats, I honestly don't think we needed to see this one. Absolutely nothing of note happens in this episode. It just felt rather indulgent. Even the humour, which for the most part stays comical, feels a lot more satirical than the rest of the episodes. On the outside, Hayward has reassembled the original Vision for his own agenda and is using Wanda's own magic to bring him back to life, which was a nice touch. But the moment I saw this proto-form of Vision, I knew that the Vision Wanda had created would somehow transfer or restore this piece of unseasoned chicken back to his former self. Monica forces her way back into the Hex with this cringy scene and gets powers or something. I'm not that sure. Honestly, she's a very interesting character, but everything she does to help Wanda and to process her own internal grief and struggle is more interesting than her getting powers for plot convenience. Episode 8 was when things really started to fall into place after the reveal that it was Agatha all along. Such a banger, by the way. We get some new ideas looking into witches and covens in the MCU. In fact, the book Agatha uses, The Darkhold, first appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so some very nice continuity there. While some were expecting a bigger villain like Mephisto, of course the antagonist for this mostly light sitcom-based show is quite literally an evil cackling witch. It fits the tone perfectly. One of my biggest complaints about Age of Ultron was that we never got to see the hard-hitting context of the Maximoff twins' motives until now, and I'll admit, in hindsight, it was better placed here. We also get the reasoning for the show's existence, with Wanda's love of sitcoms being integrated throughout this trip through memory lane, even showing clips from specific shows referenced in WandaVision. The association Wanda has with these shows has both happiness and tragedy laced within them, providing a viable reason why she unconsciously created this flawed world. We also get this great little tease of the Scarlet Witch coming to Wanda due to her exposure to the Mind Stone, and this very heartfelt scene with Vision straight after the events of Age of Ultron. Her feeling of complete loss overshadows her, and it's only with Vision's own desire to understand and make Wanda feel better that the two's relationship can really begin to blossom. There's also this line of dialogue which got memed the hell out of on Twitter. It's a perfectly fine bit of dialogue, I just think the writers were trying not to be cliche. Vision having a will and not wanting to be anyone's weapon in his death was a very nice touch as well, and this next scene is just gut-wrenching. Wanda just wants some closure to the only person she let herself love again, and instead the best she's offered is this absolutely morbid goodbye to Vision in pieces. The callback line Wanda says,
I can't feel you.
is so upsetting, along with Hayward's just absolutely cold responses to Wanda not being able to bury Vision, just leave her so empty. And the final nail in the coffin is where Wanda goes to the real Westview. Seeing that deed just made everything feel so much more upsetting. Despite everything he was built for, his purpose, his loyalties to the Avengers, he still made sure Wanda would always have a home in a place that she never felt she could belong.
Boom.
Unfortunately, a lot of these really great scenes are kind of ruined by Agatha's constant exposition, but regardless, this is everything we need to know about why this world came to be, as well as providing the reasoning for Agatha wanting to destroy Wanda upon discovering what she actually is.
The Scarlet Witch is not born, she is forged. She has no coven nor need for incantation, or exceeds that of the Sorcerer Supreme. It's your destiny to destroy the world.
Her defeating Agatha with her own trick of using runes was a great little callback, and Wanda finally embracing her own power and accepting her truth was very satisfying. The best part for me was actually the talk that the two visions have. Their interactions are actually very intriguing, and it is very interesting to see two computers essentially have a discussion about their own morality. They'll stop their very intense fight just on a technicality for a discussion on ethics, and I love it. Wanda trapping Agatha in her own mind as one of her characters also felt like just desserts, and it seems like she'll turn up again at some point. Along with Agatha's final comment about Wanda not realising what she's unleashed, also leaves a real air of mystery of what's to come in future projects. The final scene of Wanda giving up her world was just as sad as all her losses, but having realised herself as the Scarlet Witch, she's found new purpose in this world. Wanda astral projecting whilst running on autopilot at the end was very telling of how powerful she's becoming, and if the Darkhold is anything like it was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it seems it may teach her powerful but very dark magic that may corrupt her. Since the big Infinity Saga is now over, I think the higher ups at Disney and Marvel are finally allowing their shows and films to explore some originality. If you still don't believe me, look at The Mandalorian. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have been given their freedom for that show, and it has been immensely successful for being original. It also ties nicely with my theory since that it aired after Disney had finished their 5-year plan with the Star Wars sequels, since it didn't need any oversight to fit into that sequel trilogy's story arc. If you want to call what the sequels had a story arc. This does highlight the idea that I thought Disney would end up doing. On its own, WandaVision is very fun to watch, but it essentially acts as a stepping stone and extra content to fill in the gaps between Marvel's films and bridge ideas that those films want to explore in advance for audiences. I do think it's a little cheeky of Marvel to do this, as I think it slightly diminishes the stakes of the TV shows for film exposure, but it is what it is. This show was partly a precursor for Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel, and I'm okay with that. I do believe that Disney want to try and be more experimental, or at least their creatives are being given the opportunity to do so with this show and the other shows and films that have been announced. Loki sounds like a great time travel prison break, Falcon and Winter Soldier feels like a buddy cop show. This is all just speculation at this point, but it feels very fresh post Infinity Saga. Some of these concepts might work, some of them might not, and while this show was good at times, I think that it buckled slightly under the weight of its own ambition, and ultimately its existence felt more like a gimmick. It couldn't be as amazing as it probably should have been because it needed to pull back to reality and progress forward in a very Marvel-y way. Also, I feel I have to mention, not a single one of the other Avengers fought to comfort Wanda, since she was one of the few people who didn't get back who she lost. Tony got a whole funeral with everyone there, and no one thought to check up on Wanda or go to Vision's will reading. I get that the show is called WandaVision, but it's so unbelievable that no one came with her to S.W.O.R.D. This was the perfect place for Clint to be, being a friend to Wanda with everything that they've been through together in Age of Ultron, Civil War, and Endgame. And he had to go through the same loss that Wanda did, since he had to sacrifice Black Widow unwillingly. He would have been perfect for this, but he's got his own show at some point, so I guess we'll see what he gets up to then. Also, I wasn't going to mention this, but it would feel so wrong if I didn't. This isn't a criticism of the show, but rewatching it for this video all in one go over a couple days was so much more enjoyable and satisfying than the episodes being released once a week. It completely ruins the pacing of this miniseries, having to wait a week for an episode, and actually made my experience watching the show so much worse. Overall, I'm very glad that this show was made. It paid homage, but also adopted eras of television we may never see again, and with an amazing level of humour. The production design was amazing, the music and the themes were all such bops, and I can't wait to see where Wanda and Vision end up next. Ultimately, this show had to come back to reality, but it was still fun nonetheless, and I, for one, cannot wait to see where Marvel go next with their television shows. But for real, Wanda left Westview without saying sorry to the townsfolk? They deserve at least an apology. Also, Vision was worth $3 billion? Bro could have at least left Wanda a finger or two. It would have set her up for life.